Everyone, we are going to discuss about the Cavite Mutiny, first-hand account and second-hand account, together with my group mates. So, mutiny, a rebellion against authority. Rebellion means kay pag-alsa kontra sa mga namumuno. Comes from an old verb, mutin, which means revolt. So, revolt is to fight in a violent way against the rule of a leader or government. So, there are two major events that was happened in 1872. So, in Filipino version by Dr. Trinidad Hermenegildo Pardo de Tavera, April 13, 1857 to March 26, 1925. So, uprising of military personnel of Fort San Felipe, the Spanish arsenal in Cavite, Philippines on January 20, 1872. So, kining Fort San Felipe, kay name ni siya sa arsenal sa Cavite niya. Kining arsenal, maupod niyang buhatanan sa mga armas ni siya sa mga Spanish government. So, daghan mga Pilipino diri nga nagtrabaho sa arsenal. So, around 200 soldiers and laborers rose up in the belief that it would elevate to a national uprising. So, nagtuo sila nga mapadako pa nila ang arsenal. But, mutiny was unsuccessful. Government soldier executed many of the participants. So, there are reasons nga why the mutiny was unsuccessful. So, the martyrdom of the three priests, si Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora. So, they are called the Gumbursa Fathers. So, the graduates of the University of Santo Tomas were brilliant men who used their education to fight for reforms to break the 300-year-old dominance of the Spanish government. So, these Gumbursa fathers headed the secularization movement. Gumbursa leading a movement to separate the church administration. At that time, many parish priests were Spanish friars, member of the religious orders who often held significant power and influence, sometimes at the expense of the local Filipino clergy. So, gusto aning mga local priest no nga magkaana sila kaugalingan nga simbahan nila, kana magkaana sila authority sa simbahan or position. Ug sa una, nahimong na control sa mga Spanish friars ang mga Roman Catholic dito sa Pilipinas. So, kontrolado nila sa una ang Roman Catholic. So, that's what we call secularization. At ito ay isinusulong nila Padre Gomez, Jose Burgos, at Jacinto Zamora. So, they are active in secularization movement. Kaya sila dinawit or nahimong na implicated ng mga Spanish governments because they are a mastermind of the mutiny. So, the story of Gumbursa exemplifies the struggle for justice and national liberation in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period. So, the group work continues today inspired by the legacy of these courageous priests who fought for a more just and equitable society. So, maong wala na successful ang mutiny kay tungod kay gipang patay sa mga sundalo sa gobyerno ang kuan. Dagan sa mga nagtrabaho ngadto sa arsenal. So, there are many people nga na-inspired sa mga pari. Kay ni-fight gid sila during the Spanish colonial. So, Jose Burgos, a key organizer of the Committee of Reformers, actively campaigned for more liberal laws in the Philippines. So, this committee comprised of both lay and clergy members staged demonstration for reforms under various colonial administrations, highlighting their persistent challenge to Spanish rule. So, the Committee of Reformers and the action of individuals like Jose Burgos kay importante kaayo sa pagbuild sa momentum para sa Philippine Revolution that ultimately lead to the end of Spanish colonial rule. So, the phrase earned the area of the Spanish and were called filibusteros. So, katong gisuwat ni Jose Rizal nga El Filibusterismo kay bali connected to sila bali murag connect guys sa Cavite Mutiny kay including man ato ang kanang the Gumbursa Fathers. So og gisulti pod ni Jose Rizal nga kung wala pa lang ni fight ang kanang Gumbursa Fathers, wala pa lang sila nagpabitay, siguro siya pari na tingay si karon. Manay kanang gistorya pod niya ni Jose Rizal. So the 1872 Cavite Mutiny is generally seen as a mutiny stemming from Filipino grievances. So, however, this article using Governor Esquerdo's report argues it was a failed separatist revolution. So, disputing Esquerdo's claim of the instigators' identities and suggesting their Masonic connection with Esquerdo allowed them to escape punishment.
Sa accounts is naadiha ang mga details nga gikan sa mga saksi sa panghitabo, and these accounts provide valuable insights into events, perspectives, and emotions from a unique and authentic viewpoint. Jose Montero E. Vidal was a Spanish historian and government official who lived in the Philippines during the 19th century. He was born on January 28, 1851 in Gurgal, Spain. After studying law in Madrid, he worked in various roles within the Spanish administration in the Philippines from 1868 until his death. He is best known for his writings on the history of the Philippines, particularly his accounts of the Cavite Mutiny of 1872. He died on February 27, 1936 in Paris. Edmond Flaubert, in 1824 to 1909, was a French travel writer and journalist. Born on January 7, 1824, in Saint-Gaudens, France, he became known for his travel writing, documenting his journeys across various parts of the world. His writings often focus on the cultures and landscapes he encountered. Flaubert died on January 30, 1909 in Biarritz, France. Governor General Carlos Maria de la Torre y Navarrete was a Spanish soldier and politician who served as the 82nd Governor General of the Philippines from 1869 to 1871. He is considered one of the most beloved Spanish governors general assigned to the Philippines. Governor General Rafael de Izquierdo, a Spanish official who served as the Governor General of the Philippines from 1871 to 1873. Izquierdo was a controversial figure in the Philippines history, known for his harsh and repressive policies or kanang ipatupad yun ang mga policy. And he implemented measures that aim to suppress dissent or pugong sa paglabag sa ilang patakaran and maintain Spanish control over the Philippines. Revue des Deux Mondes in Paris. Lismao ni siya ang giilang nga French literary and political nga magazine founded in 1829. La Solidaridad in 1892. Lismao ni ang Filipino propaganda newspaper na gipublish sa Spain during the late 19th century. Xenophobic attacks are violent acts directed at individuals or groups based on their perceived foreignness or ethnicity. These attacks are driven by fear, hatred, and prejudice towards those seen as outsiders. For example, kanang racism, di ba ang mga tao sa South Africa, kabalong gidta kasagaran nila is mga itom. Kung muadto sila sa laing lugar, di sila saligan. I-discriminate sila based sa ilang looks or color.
So this historical account of events leading up to an execution in the Philippines. So ilang gisaway ang author account kanabuhat ng culture tungkol sa mga sayop or pagkakulang sa personal ng kabalo. So lack of first-hand knowledge. So it's suggesting that it details primarily came from exiled Filipinos like ni Joaquin Pardo de Tavera and Antonio Regidor. So the second account attributed to Regidor and published in Filipinos Anti-Europa. So giconsider pod ni nga valuable despite sa anti-prior bias na mao'y first nga nagpasiugda sa pagka-complicated sa pag-translate sa historical sources and the importance of considering authorial biases and context.
General Camilo Garcia de Polavia y del Castillo, who was the Governor General of the Philippines from 1896 to 1897. He was nicknamed Comandante Boscasa by the Filipinos during his time in the Philippines. General Polavia is known for his ruthlessness or walang awa in suppressing the Philippine Revolution. Regidor. From the word regidor, mao ni ang historical term nga gi-refer sa member of a council on municipalities in Spain and Latin America. For example, sa atoa kay daghan mga konsehal, parehara na mao nay tawag sa ila regidor gihapon. Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, collectively known as the Gomborza. So kinsa man ning tulo ka pari. Mao ni sila ang mga pari nga nag-lead sa Pilipino para sa kalayaan, where 3 Filipino priests executed by the Spanish colonial government in 1872. Mao ang gipatay ang tulo ka pari kay na-prove as guilty sila sa Supreme Court nga mga rebelde bisan pa sa kuwang ang ebidensya. Their execution became a pivotal moment in the Philippine Revolution, fueling Filipino nationalism and contributing to the growing desire for independence. nakapamatngon sa mga Pilipino nga mo contribute para sa ilang kalayaan. The three priests were tried by a Spanish military court, which found them guilty of sedition and rebellion. Despite a lack of evidence, they were sentenced to death by firing squad on February 17, 1872. Mariano Gomez, a respected parish priest in Cavite. Gomez was accused of being the ringleader of the Cavite Mutiny, a rebellion of Filipino soldiers and laborers in 1872. Jose Burgos, a well-educated and outspoken priest, Burgos was accused of inciting through his sermons and writings. Jacinto Zamora, a young and idealistic priest, Zamora was accused of being a participant in the mutiny.
So the author concludes that the idea of a prior plot to eliminate the enemies during the Cavite Mutiny is slightly false. So ang nabuhat ko ni Regidor nga kanang account or asoy is dili ko kasaligan tungod sa pagkadili tukma or mga sayop ng mga information batok sa anti-prior that requiring verification from other sources. So the two contemporary accounts of the Cavite Mutiny, Herrera's philosophical work and a small section of an otherwise unrelated pamphlet nagprovide og gamay nga kasaligan nga information sa historical. So neither author was an eyewitness and their perspective offer little beyond the official version of events. So the other contemporary writer is Felipe M. de Gubantes in his Compendio Historico de Filipinas. While critical of Governor de la Torre's method, lacked the strong bias found on other accounts. So he avoided naming individuals responsible for the revolt and courteously notes that the public opinion in Manila was divided on the governor action.
Father Pablo Castells, a Spanish Jesuit priest nga close confidante ni Jose Rizal. He served as Rizal's spiritual advisor and played a role in the propaganda movement that aimed to improve the lives of Filipinos under Spanish rule. Jesuits mao ni ang tawag sa mga members sa Society of Jesus, a Roman Catholic religious order founded by Saint Ignatius of Loyola in 1540.
This report discussed second accounts regarding the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 and the execution of Gomborza, Father Burgos, Father Gomez, and si Father Zamora. It compares two main sources of information. So, kaninga report nagisgot bahin sa Cavite Mutiny niadtong 1872 ug sa pagkamatay ni Gomborza ug sa mga pare nga sila si Father Burgos, Father Gomez ug si Father Zamora. Nag-compare kini sa duha sa pagkuha og informasyon. The documents from imprisoned friars, these include writings by Father Agapito Itziguin and Father Antonio Pernavia, who were captured by the Filipino revolutionaries in Cavite in 1896. Their accounts accuse Spanish friars of plotting to falsely implicate Gomborza in the mutiny, leading to their execution. However, since their friars were prisoners and possibly co-erect or tortured, their testimonies are questionable and unreliable. So, ang mga dokumento gikan sa mga napriso nga mga pare, apil ang diay ang mga gisuwat ni Padre Agapito Itziguin o Padre Antonio Pernavia nga gisakop sa mga revolusyonaryong Pilipino sa Cavite niadtong 1896. Accounts from credible individual. This include writing by Trinidad H. Pardo de Tavera and Pedro Paterno, who had access to information from their relatives involved in the events. In his 1903 census report, Pedro de Tavera described the Cavite mutiny as merely a labor uprising caused by workers' grievances, not a conspiracy against Spain. However, conservative Spanish friars and officials exaggerated the event to justify the persecution of reformists. So, apil po di ay ang gisuwat ni Trinidad it's Pardo de Tavera ug Pedro Paterno nga adunay access sa mga impormasyon gikan sa ilang parende nga na-involve sa mga panghitabo. The many historical accounts of the mutiny are biased or contain inaccuracies, making them unreliable. However, these accounts greatly influence Filipino nationalism and resistance against Spanish rule.
To point out the clash between Pardo de Taveras and Father Serapio Tamayo. Historical perspective, here's the breakdown of that conflict. Ang klase tali ni Pardo de Taveras ug ni Tatay Serapio Tamayo. Historical perspective, ani ang pagkahugno sa maong panagbangi. Pardo de Tavera, influenced by the reformist and the nationalist sentiments of his time, often portrayed the friars, especially Spanish friars, as obstacles to progress and as exploiters of Filipino people. His historical writings emphasize the negative aspect of their influence, highlighting their vast land holdings, their political power, and instances of abuse. He saw them as hindering social and economic development. Ang Pardo de Tavera nga na-impluwensyahan sa mga sentimento sa reformista o nasyonalista sa iyang panahon. Kanunay naghulagway sa mga praile, ilabi na sa mga prailing Espanyol, isip mga babag sa pag-uswag ug ingon nga mga mapahimuslanon sa katawhang Pilipino. Ang iyang mga sinulat sa kasaysayan nagpasiugda sa negatibong aspeto sa ilang impluwensya